Welcome again to another The More You Know from the Plot Geeks of the Plot Geek Academy. I'm Jana S. Brown, and I'm here today with my lovely co-host, CJ Anaya. Good morning, CJ.
Good morning. So lovely to be here.
Indeed, I don't know about you, but the weather has turned cold here. We're supposed to get snow later this afternoon, so I have my little cup full of nice warm. This is a blueberry tea and a passion fruit tea, which I have decided is a
Mm.
very, very lovely thing when it is cold outside. It's all bright,
Yeah,
sunshiny.
sounds
Like it.
delicious.
So today we are going to talk about another The More You Know. And The More You Knows, as we've talked about on some of the other videos, are questions that we see all the time in the author world. So we try to come up with some solutions, some suggestions, things like that, and we put them all here so that we can direct you back here and away you go. So today, are you ready for it?
Ready? I'm
All
ready.
right. CJ, what is a character arc and why does it matter?
So, a character arc is the emotional journey that your character takes throughout the story. And there are a few different types. The one that is the most common is the positive change arc, where your character starts out one way, and there is some kind of emotional wound or emotional struggle or some kind of realization that maybe they need to come to. And this path, this story, this journey that they're on really challenges that whatever misbelief they hold or whatever emotional journey they need to take to finally grow and mature on a level that's satisfying to the reader and makes sense to the story. And so by the end of it, you've got a character that hopefully is better and is changed for the better on an emotional level based on what they learned throughout that journey. Now, there are a couple of other types. You've got your negative character arc, which I think is fairly self-explanatory. Your character is going to start
Anakin
out,
Skywalker.
yeah, he's going to be worse than when he started, which is a bummer. Then you've got static character arcs where they just don't necessarily change too much. It's really the world around them that they are able to change. And so, Jana, what's a good example of a static character arc or a character that has that?
James Bond is one of my favorite examples of it. If you were to read all of the James Bond stories or even watch all the James Bond movies, James Bond does not change tremendously from movie to movie to movie. This is why they can have him be various actors and all of those things. And they've tried with the Daniel Craig ones to kind of tie it together and have there be a deeper change within James Bond. And some people have loved that, and a lot of people haven't because they love their James Bond to be the man of mystery who looks hot, blows crap up, gets the girl, and at the end of the day defeats the villain. And that's all they request of James Bond. They are not there for him to become a more fully realized person and deal with his past trauma and that kind of stuff. They just want that action adventure story of we're going to do these things. So we do see that thrillers, mysteries, some of those kinds of things do give way to these kind of characters where they don't make a lot of change book to book, but we just enjoy seeing them dealing with whatever the universe happens to throw at them because they're hyper confident. Cool things are going to happen. At the end, we're satisfied with that, but we're not looking for extreme changes of their personality or overcoming of problems.
Yeah. So these character arcs, they are so important because it's really what your story is all about. Now you can have events, physical things happening outwardly, all of these, essentially what we call the plot. The plot is occurring, but if you don't have any internal conflict, if you don't have misbeliefs, if there is nothing that is really if there's no arc involved, whether it's positive, negative, or even static, because static still has its place, then you don't really have a story, and your character is not going to be defined. There's not going to be much depth to them. They will not be multifaceted in any way. So you really do need these character arcs. You need these emotional journeys, whether they're slight, whether they're take a downturn or they take an upturn, but you need them because that is really what fuels your story and pushes the plot forward. Jana, have you had experience reading books that really there was no character arc to speak of? And what was that like for you as a reader?
Oh, it makes me crazy because the reader, we're here expecting that these characters that we hopefully grow to love or hate or have some kind of emotional response with, we expect them to do something. We expect them to do something as far as the change with the physical plot, with responding to what's going on around them, but also we expect that's going to affect internally what their landscape looks like. Again, unless we're looking for just a shoot 'em up where we don't care, and they're all kind of interchangeable. But most of the time, we're doing the other. And the biggest things that I see that get really confusing is either the one where the author can't commit to what kind of a plot arc it is. And so, excuse me, a character arc. So we think they're moving one way, and then plot twist, they're not. Da, da, da. And authors, we think we're clever when we do this kind of thing, but most of the time we actually make the readers really upset. And this goes back to the Anakin Skywalker thing. If you look at the arc of the first three movies, and when we're talking about character arcs, each book, a character will have an arc, will have changes that are going on, and then across the series, you'll have a bigger growth arc that's going on. So in the first one, Anakin Skywalker is on a very positive arc. He's going to go from a slave to becoming a Jedi. He's going to accept his place in the world, all those kinds of things. And so we see that setup. Cute little kid, barring all of the problems that are with the writing, but stick with me here. Cute little kid who is going to become a Jedi and is going to be a Padawan by the end. Great. Second one is where we get the first hints that his character arc is going wrong. Because what we're expecting there is, again, he's going to go from his stage as a Padawan to becoming a master, to taking on more responsibilities, to reacting to the plot, to helping the people around him, all those kinds of things. And that's the expectation. And we do get most of those aspects, but we start to get the inkling that something is wrong, that this isn't always going to work because even as he's becoming more, he's also doing things that undermine what's going on in his arc. And this is okay because the overall series arc of those first three leads to his fall. So we have to have that point that we're seeing him grow and we want him to rise because this rise is what's going to make the negative arc of the last one so powerful when it's done right. So you can do that where you have positive arcs that lead to a place and then a fall, and that's a negative arc. But we have to get those hints along the way because if he had had an excellent second movie where we had not had any questions about who he was, he was doing the right things, he's talking to his masters, he's totally upfront and honest, he's being the best Jedi that he can be, he's honest with Padme, all these things, and it was only a positive growth arc and he was overcoming his past, then to have that fall later doesn't work because we haven't been set up for it. And that's the biggest thing that happens where it's a problem is either we get no change, which is static where it's not fun, where it's boring, or we get changes that go, and we're up and we're down, and we're up and we're down, and when we're up and that kind of thing. The other thing is to remember where you were at the end of one book when you start the next one. So you see this in series a lot too, which is a regression. So you'll have a character that in book one went through great changes. Say, cozy mystery, paranormal cozy mystery is really popular right now. And one of the heart of that is very often an outsider who comes into a paranormal town situation. They learn that there's magic. They generally learn that they have some kind of power, some kind of connection to it. And they go forth and they solve mysteries and sometimes fall in love and all that kind of thing. And that's really fun in that book one. But by the time that we get a book two, I hate it when suddenly they're going, yeah, all those things happen in book one, but I'm still not sure that magic exists. And I'm like, I'm going to hit you in the face with a shoe because you've just gone through all these things. You grew, you changed, you accepted, you took on some of your own power. And it's fine if you still have questions about that. What does that power mean is a great next part of the arc. Do I really want to accept it? As something that I want to grow within myself, that's great. But to go into total denial, it's like you need therapy because we've undone everything we did in the last book. And that is a big problem with series arcs is to make sure with each book you continue to grow the arc or you continue to set up for a negative arc, but you don't erase what happened in the book before because they changed, they're to a new point. And so the next book has to start here and move forward. And the problem a lot of authors get is that they have accomplished everything in book one. They're like, here's their childhood wounds, here's things that they had questions about, here's changes they wanted to make, and they accomplished them all in book one, and now I have a book two. And I don't know where they're going to go from here. So to fix that, I will regress everything they learned in book one and we'll retread that ground in book two. Don't do that. Don't do it. You need to think about across the series what are different ways they can keep growing? What are different things that they can look at? So maybe they come to peace with something in this book, but there's something else that they're going to figure out in this next book. So the arc is consistent. They're continuing to grow as a person, just like we all do in real life. But you're not regressing and saying, oh, yes, all of the things that you did last time and all the things that you learned, they don't matter anymore. Anything else you want to add?
Just basically what you touched on. If you're doing a series, don't resolve all of the emotional, don't resolve that character arc and don't make it to where they can't grow anymore after book one. There needs to be room for growth. There needs to be more as it spans that series. Other than that, I think you covered it. So,
An anthology series, you can do that. So, do we have a thing on here? One of these days, we'll tell you about the different kinds of series. But when we talk about an anthology series, that's like a lot of romances are, where book one is going to be brother one and his bride, book two is going to be brother two and his sweetheart, et cetera, et cetera. In that case, you can resolve all of those, even though it's still within a series, because you're not going to draw the character arc of the same people across them. So you can do that and still have it work in a series. Those can be resolved. But when you're doing a dynamic series where it's the same characters drawn across several books, you got to think about what is the arc for each book and then what is the arc overall. Where do you want them to be at the end? So, all right, guys, that's all we have for today. It is The More You Know, What is a Character Arc, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye now.
bye, guys.